Can a person really build a portfolio of notes and be the bank? Stay tuned. Welcome to this week's edition of NoteSchool TV, where every week we bring you the most amazing content as well as the most amazing guests. And this week is no different, as you'll meet our guest in just a minute. So as we get started, do three things for me. Number one, make sure and like what you see. Yep, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe if you have not already done so. And number three, hit the bell notification. Boom, go ahead and hit that so that you will be made aware every week when NoteSchool is about to go live. And when is that? 11:05 Central Time every Wednesday. Also, please continue to share with us, right, your comments. Eddie and I both love to hear what you guys think of what we're presenting to you, what it means to you, and any suggestions on what you would like to see in future episodes. Keep those questions coming as well. And make sure that if you want more information about NoteSchool and what we do at NoteSchool, how to attend a NoteSchool one-day live class, go to noteschool.com/TV. Again, noteschool.com/TV. And now we're going to do what we do every week at this time, and that is we're going to bring you the news. So in the news today, as you can see on the screen, record amounts of sellers are delisting their homes. Yeah, record amount of sellers are delisting their homes. Guys, what that really means is that, well, you can see that we're going up here. And what Redfin is reporting is that 2% per week sellers are delisting. So I think that means in over a month's time, that would be 8%. And you get it, right? The reason stated: low quality offers, no offers at all, right? And why is that? Because of higher interest rates. And here's the other thing that we're hearing all the time inside of NoteSchool, and that is, quote, some sellers are having a hard time grasping the fact that it is no longer a seller's market. Remember, a few months ago, you'd put your house on the market today, you'd have multiple offers within the week, close it within 2 weeks for 20% more than you were asking. So that's a little more than some of the sellers can grasp at this point. So more on that. And then number two, 8% of newly mortgaged homes are underwater. Yeah, so Black Knight is reporting in its latest report up to 8% of 2022 mortgaged homes, meaning you've bought a home this year, got a loan on that, are now underwater. What does that mean? It means that they owe more than the house is worth. So October was the second consecutive month of cooling prices. And what we're seeing as well is that more than 25% of FHA and VA loans that have been originated in the last year, since the beginning of the year, have dipped into negative territory. And remember that FHA and VA are Ginnie Mae loans. Ginnie Mae is one of the three government GSEs, government-sponsored enterprises: Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie, which is FHA. VA, which usually means very low down payment loans, as little as 3%. So we'll keep you posted on that and let you know how that further plans out or plays out. So with that, I want to introduce, a gentleman that's become a very good friend of mine, and just an all-around good guy. Our guest today, Mr. Wayne Garrett.
Hey, Joe, how are you?
Hey, Wayne, I am great today. How about you?
I'm doing great as well. It's a little rainy here today, but all is well. I'm having a good time.
Well, I can say that our weather is a little better than yours in South Florida then because it's not a cloud in the sky and it's about 75 degrees, which is amazing for us here in South Florida, even in December, right?
Yeah.
So, Wayne, you have been with Note School since what, May of 2020, something like that?
Yeah, I joined during a pandemic. What better time to join?
Right, exactly. And you have. I'll tell a little before we get into a little bit about what you've been doing as far as building your business.
Right.
During a pandemic. Tell us a little bit about your background and kind of share that with the folks on the show today.
Sure. So I've spent the last 30 years of my career as an engineer. I went to school for engineering, mechanical engineering back in the day. Spent the first 15 years of my career in the automotive industry. Then there were some downturns back in the 90s and early 2000s, and that caused me to have to look for work. So I found a home in the aerospace industry, and it was actually an aerospace company that moved me from Indianapolis, Indiana, down here to Texas. So I've enjoyed a really nice career. I just got to a point. Yeah.
Wayne, were you a rocket scientist?
No, I was not. I know people hear aerospace, and aerospace is very broad, Joe. That covers the company I worked at made helicopter engines.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it covers a broad spectrum. But still, it's different from a car because if your helicopter engine stops running, the blades kind of stop spinning and you fall like a rock. So it's not good.
That's exactly right. So you took you to Dallas Fort Worth.
Took me to Dallas Fort Worth. I've worked in that line of work for about 15 years, and I
Right.
just hit a spot in life where you get around. I don't know if this has happened to you, Joe, but you get around 50, which I'm 50 now, and you start looking on the horizon of life, right?
Yeah.
And what's coming down the road. And I just thought to myself, I can't do another 15 or 20 years of this working as just a W-2 employee and kind of the same thing, drive to work, do your job, go home, and just that rinse and repeat. I just really gotten tired of that and wanted something different.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so we looked at investing in traditional real estate.
Right. There you go.
That's kind of where we started.
Yeah. Go ahead.
We started with that, just the investing in just traditional, like some syndication deals. I've done that. We looked at doing rental properties, but the numbers don't really work out when you really start penciling out the numbers. Fix and flips. In this area, by the time I got into real estate, I really quickly started to figure out that people that were already doing it had a machine and they could afford to pay more for a house than what the gurus would tell you should pay for a house.
Right.
So I couldn't be competitive.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was
It
spinning
got
my
to be
wheels a
hard.
lot in the beginning.
Yeah, it got to be hard to buy a house for 70 to 75% of the as is value, right, Wayne?
Well, yeah, when everyone else was willing to pay 90 or a little more.
Yeah, and we talk about that inside of Note School, and in that HGTV did a whole lot for folks in that. Wow, it was quick and it was easy, and
Yeah.
we could buy a house and rehab it, stage it, and sell it within an hour, and and make $100,000, right?
Right.
So Wayne, you've taken the journey of what we see a lot of people inside of Note School, Note School, members, Note School students, and that is you always had a dream, right, to invest in real estate, and you came to the point in life where you could. Then you started with what we would call traditional real estate, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were
Right.
either going to be well, there's three things you can do, right? You can either be a wholesaler, buy a house at, like we were talking about, at 80%, 90% of value, flip it to somebody else and make a fee, and then go do it again. Or you could be a fix and flipper, right? You fix it, redo it, and then resell it. Or you can become a landlord.
Yeah.
And we see people take that journey and then they go, wow, this is, it's not what I thought it was. And then, so tell us a little bit about how you found Notes and Note School.
Well, how I found Notes and Note School, the idea of notes is something that had come up when I was looking at all the different aspects of
Right.
traditional investing. However, the note side of it, since it's documentation and a lot more of it's more focused on the math side because it's the documentation. There's just something about it that just kind of seemed a little more difficult to wrap your mind around.
Right.
Because you listen to someone explain all the different strategies you can do with notes, and when you're already absorbing all the things from traditional real estate and just trying to take all this in as a new industry that you're breaking into, the note strategy was just a little bit kind of, was like, just a bit too much. So let's focus on some of these others that seem a little bit more down to earth, let's say. So grinding down that path, NoteSchool, though, is very good about putting out hooks in different areas of the traditional real estate market. And there was a piece of software that I was buying that was a marketing piece of software that's used to help you go and funnel leads to be able to do marketing for houses. Well, Eddie was doing a 1-day class. And so when I saw that, I said, well, my wife and I have always wanted to know a little more about notes. And I'm willing to listen to any kind of training I can, because maybe I'll find the one thing that just kind of makes it click. So we went to the 1-day class, and it clicked. The thing I like about Eddie with notes is I'll say it this way: he puts the cookies on the bottom shelf. He made
I like that.
He made it easier to understand, and the way that the information was presented was so much easier to wrap our minds around. So, of course, this is part of NoteSchool's marketing funnel, right? So the next step is a 3-day class.
Right.
And you go to the 3-day class, and that gives you guys more time to break into more detail and look at deals and look at case studies and go through some modeling of what's that going to look like. And that's when we caught the vision, the 3-day class. Because I remember going into the 3-day class telling Ben Hott, I'm not buying any more training. I've bought training. I'm not buying any more training. And he said, hey, that's okay. That's okay. No big deal. I completely understand. And after the 3-day class, we were like, where do we sign?
Never say never, Wayne.
I figured that out. And it was, again, it was just kind of all perfect storm, because NoteSchool gave us, my wife and I, the vision to say, okay, we've got all these things in place. We had planned on me retiring, because what we found out in the traditional real estate market, Joe, I would get calls for things and I'd be in a meeting. Yeah. And it was very, very difficult to try to run the business, because in the beginning, you don't really feel like you can just afford to pay VAs to do everything for you.
Right. Right.
So it's very rough in the beginning. And when you're trying to hold down a full-time job, it's even rougher. Right. So we built a strategy where we could make our household run on one income, and I would retire and just throw my full weight into what we're doing with notes. And so that's what I've done.
And, Wayne, one of the things that I tell, whether it's whichever spouse decides to go into, whether it's notes or real estate investor, investing in, traditional bricks and mortar, the spouse has got to buy in, right? I mean, the spouse has got to, you've got to be on the same page, and and your wife, Darla, she's amazing, right? I mean, she really is. And so she totally did it. And she attends every summer summit and the appreciation event and Note Expo. And she's right there with you, Wayne, supporting you. And I think that's an amazing thing. That's really something that is a big key factor for someone to succeed, especially when they're, have a significant other or spouse.
Yeah. Well, the other part of that, though, too, Joe, is she wants to make sure if I get hit by a bus, she knows where to go pick up the pieces.
Oh, that's funny, Wayne. So our tagline today, or our teaser line, was can a person really start building a portfolio of loans? So you're in this now about going on almost 2.5 years.
Right.
And let me just say another thing about Wayne. This is brag on Wayne today or day. And Wayne, very coachable, right? Very coachable. Um, does his homework, right? And so Wayne jumped into this with both feet, right, all in, and he burned the ships, right? I mean,
I did.
you landed the ships and you burned them right there on the shore.
Yep.
And so tell us about what you've been able to accomplish, because Wayne and I talk. Wayne now helps NoteSchool with some of our with all of our deal labs, right? So Wayne and I spend a lot of time together doing what we're doing right now, about 4 times a week, Wayne,
Yeah.
and in our deal labs. And he does that. And tell us why you decided to do that, Wayne. Why did you decide to go in and help set up deal labs every
Well,
week?
well, because I see it as an opportunity. The thing I've learned in life is that action. So I've kind of learned it like this, Joe. Action creates opportunities,
Mm.
and as opportunities present themselves, and you make use of those opportunities, that generates more action, which generates more opportunities. So I saw it as a way to condense my learning, because now
Mhm.
I'm exposed to the deal flow that comes into NoteSchool. It's not just what I'm involved in, it's
Right.
everything. It's a fire hose of
Yeah.
deal flow.
Yeah.
But after a year of doing that, my understanding of how all of this works is far beyond what it ever would be if I was just doing it and going at it at my own pace.
Right. Right.
So the bottom line, Joe, is I saw it as an opportunity, and I knew I just had to take advantage of the opportunity. Sometimes things come along and they're just the right thing, and this was right.
Right. Yeah, and that's right. Right. It's just you immerse yourself in every possibility that's out there, and that's what I love about you, dude. So we were talking the other day, and Wayne was sharing. I mean, we don't really get a lot of time, to just really talk about what's happening as far as building the business. And Wayne, you said, I've now, and I know you've been buying, performing notes and non-performing notes, and now you've got a note that non-performing that you're working, that was a performing note that became a non-performing note, but
Right.
now you own the house and all of that, and which is going to work out. And so tell us a little bit about what you've been able to do as far as really building that bank that we were talking about, that portfolio of loans, and what that's been able to do for you.
Sure. So going back to what I was saying with the vision 10, 15 years down the road, one of the things when you retire from a job or when you get laid off, well, rewinding a little bit further, our whole real estate journey started because my wife got laid off from
Mhm.
her career, and she had worked at this particular company for almost 30 years. So that sent us down a path of, hey, we need to do something different. Well, what happens to your 401k whenever you leave a job, get laid off? It becomes available to then roll into something, correct? So we started learning about self-directed IRAs.
Right.
We started rolling retirement accounts into self-directed IRAs because we got tired of seeing our 401ks go up and up and up and up and up. And then we have a downturn in the market like we do now, and the 401k takes a dip,
Right.
a big dip. And it doesn't come back in a year. It may take 8 years to come back to the point it was before it dipped.
Right.
No big deal when you're 20, Joe. It's not. When you're 20, who cares? I didn't care.
Yeah.
But when you start getting into your 50s, you get 55, 60, and you see retirement. Our retirement's 5 years out.
Mhm.
And something like this happens, that's a soul crusher.
It's an
That's a
oh crap
soul
moment
crusher.
for sure. Yeah.
Yes. So we decided we're done. Look, Wall Street can lose, I can lose my money just as fast or well as Wall Street. I don't
Yeah.
need their help. I can do it on my own. And guess what? I care a whole lot more, Joe,
Yeah.
about what happens to the income. I want that thing to go up. I'm trying to build a snowball.
Right.
So with performing loans, I've been able to just one brick at a time, buy a loan, buy another loan, start getting that income coming in, and you start building a snowball. And it's a lot of patience, because if you've got $2 or $3 million to deploy, you can build the snowball faster.
Right.
If you've got a few 100,000, which that sounds like a lot of money, but when you start buying decent assets, you can gobble up $300,000 or $400,000 really fast
Right.
because you're buying higher quality assets,
Right. Right.
which is what I wanted to do. So I've just kind of built this up over time
Mm-hmm.
and watched the P&I increase, watch the monthly income increase, the checks increase. And I think I told you the other day, I'm at a point now where I could buy a note about every 6 to 7 months.
Yeah.
I have enough money to buy another note. And as that goes, and it's a lot of patience, you're just kind of watching it build and grow.
Mm-hmm.
A year or two from now, that time will probably be down to 3 months. I'll probably be ready to buy a note in 3 months instead of 6 or 7.
That's right. That's right. Wayne, you're 100% right. That was exactly where my mind was going when you said that. We've got that mind mail going on, right?
That's
So,
right.
and let's talk about just a minute. You said, you could have $2 or $3 million, or you've got $200,000 or $300,000. And Wayne, there are strategies really that we have and that we teach, that if you don't have, that kind of money, right? Some people are
Mhm.
saying, well, I'm that doesn't include me because I don't have that kind of money. And, it could be, $30,000 to $40,000, or something less. But what we have to acknowledge that we have to start where we are. So somebody
Exactly.
could be very fortunate, right, and have $2 to $3 million, or $200,000 to $300,000, or $30,000 to $40,000, or $3,000 to
Right.
$4,000, right?
Right.
And you've got to acknowledge where you are, and then you've got to say, okay, then I've got to do things a little differently than somebody else. I've got to go out and find some private investors out there. And Wayne, I can tell you that there is more money sitting on the sidelines in what we call dry cash, right? Just
Right.
sitting there, than there's ever been. There's north of $5 trillion, not billion, but $1 trillion that are sitting, that people are a little bit nervous about what where to invest it. Do I throw it in the market? Do I throw it in crypto? Do I throw it, do I just put it into a mutual fund, or just in a money market fund? And so it's a little bit scary out there, and it's that millionaire next door thing that you don't really think that really exists, but it does. Retired law enforcement, retired postal workers, nurses, all of these folks. There's money out there, and it's all looking for an opportunity. And I remember from the old, what was the Wall Street movies, Gordon Gekko, money never sleeps, right? Well, it doesn't, right? So Wayne, as we wrap this up, two questions. Number one, what would you advise people that are out there that are like, okay, 2022 is wrapping up. It's an interesting market. And, the things that I talked about as far as the news pieces today, at NoteSchool, we've got some solutions for all of those things, right? We wouldn't tell you these things if we didn't know that creative financing in these times, the times that we're living in now, creative financing takes over, right? I mean, creative financing, instead of being just a little sliver at the top of the graph, becomes, a huge half of the business, 40% of the business out there. So what would you, knowing what you know now, what would you say to folks that are like, okay, how do I move forward?
Well, so for moving forward, I would say, and especially for the person that you were talking about earlier, Joe, that maybe you've only got a few $1,000s, right? And if you've only got a few $1,000s, I'm going to make the assumption that you don't have a traditional real estate machine. You're not a fix and flipper. You're not a wholesaler.
Right.
You don't have that machinery going, but you're still looking to do something with notes. The first thing I would say to do, if you haven't already done it, is to disconnect yourself from being a consumer. Stop buying the latest and greatest every time it comes out, because we waste so much money. That's one thing I had to break myself up. I drive an older truck. I drive a 2011 Silverado, and I just replace parts on it. And I just decided, you know what? I'm not going to get hung up with having the latest and greatest car. I'm going to disconnect from that for a while, because I need to use the money to propel myself down the road. So it's finding ways. It's disconnect from being a consumer first. The second is find a strategy that's going to work with where you're at. That may be flipping notes or what we call brokering. You find somebody that has a note that they're looking to sell because, hey, people are going to need money these days, right?
Right.
And if somebody has a note, a mom and pop, somebody that's written a note, they may need a chunk of money for a need that's come up in their life.
That's right.
You need to learn how to be that person that can work that deal to buy that note and then sell it to some place like Notes Direct, a platform, and get a fee from Notes Direct for that trade.
And Wayne, just a quick thing here. You can flip a house, right? You can get a house under contract and you can flip the house and you make a fee in between. An assignment fee is what it's traditionally called.
Right.
Or you can flip a note, same deal, but it's easier to flip a note than it is to flip a house.
And I've done that.
And you've done that. There you go. So go ahead.
So, yeah, I think that's really for the lower person. That's really the perfect place to start, is to find a way to generate money. And it's not going to be easy. You're going to have some patience. It's going to take time. That's the thing I've learned with this, especially in the beginning. It takes, if you think about a building, Joe, you ever watch any kind of skyscraper or major building go up? They seem to be working on the foundation for months before anything ever goes vertical. You never see, you're like, what are they doing? They've been working on that building for 6 months and what are they doing? They're building the foundation. They're putting in all the infrastructure, all that stuff that's going to be critical once they go vertical. They're doing that first. And I've had to kind of remind myself of that, Joe, because I've been at this a couple of years. And sometimes I look at where other people are and I'm like, well, man, I'm not as far as they are. But I got to keep reminding myself, look, I'm building the foundation. I'm working on that. So then as I start putting up vertical things to my business, I've got the foundation and the structure to support it. And this can really last. I don't want to build something on shifting sand. Sometimes that happens, Joe. Guys get into real estate and they just blow and go. And they get this business going and they're generating all this money. And then the least little wind that comes up that blows against their business, it falls like a house of cards.
Without a straw, right?
Yep. And I don't want a business like that. I need something that if I have a health problem when I'm 65 or 70, I need to know that I have income coming in and I don't have to worry about it.
Right. And that's really your why. You've got a young man that's a young son did he turn 10 yesterday or 11?
Just turned 11. So yeah, we're older parents. And
yeah. Well, I was too, right? I've got a 17-year-old and I'm in my 60s. So
yeah.
Wayne, we're going to close this up with this. You and I were talking last week, and you said, Joe, I've got a lunch meeting with somebody on Thursday. Now, I don't know. We haven't talked about that which was last Thursday.
Right.
How did that go? Tell us about what happened. And here's where I'm going with this. Guys, it's about placing yourself in the right environment, right? To get the results you want. And it's about talking with people, having a conversation with people. So tell us a little bit, set that up and then tell us, what's happened. It could have been nothing. I don't know. Right. So just share with that a little bit.
Okay. So we had Note Expo, actually a month ago, right? Our big Note convention. And one of the key things that you want to do at an exposition like that is network.
Yeah.
You guys even provide this really cool app to allow people to easily network, find each other on our phones. I had somebody reach out to me that it's in this local area, and we tried to meet up and just connect during Note Expo, but then our schedules, we were going in some different directions, and that wasn't able to happen. So I said, hey, let's try to meet outside of Note Expo since we live in the same area and just see what comes out of it. You never know.
Right.
So I stayed with it. And that's the other thing. You got to be diligent.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta stay after it. So I made the meeting happen. I meet with this guy, we talk, and he's been in the note business for about 30 years, and he's been on the NPL side of the note business.
Right. Non-performing loans for everybody.
In fact, his sister at one point worked for Bob.
Really?
In the past. So
Bob Repass is our managing director, runs our funding side, which is Colonial Funding Group. Yep.
So he and I will have some future conversations. But the interesting thing is I got a new bookkeeper out of it. He recommended his bookkeeper that happens to be in Southlake. I reached out to her, and she's actually been on some other podcasts, some note-related podcasts. She's very good at what she does. She's been in the industry for a while. And so I went and had a conversation with her, and now I'm going to hire her because, again, this is part of me building the foundation of my business. This is me getting things solid, and having your books correct is a big part of that.
Right. Wayne, thanks so much for sharing with us today. The things that you've done and you've been able to share and give back to other people that are starting in the business. I mean, here's what I say. And by the way, Eddie couldn't be with us today. He's at Collective Genius, which is one of the two masterminds that he's a part of. And that was Monday and Tuesday. And then today he's flying. That was in Florida, in Tampa. He's flying to San Diego to be in the boardroom mastermind, which is done by Kent Clothier and his company. But Wayne, you give back. Tell us the name of your company again, Wayne.
Notefellow. So it's notefellow.com.
Right. And you do a podcast. Tell us about your podcast. They want to see your podcast.
So if you go to I'm on Facebook. So if you look up Notefellow on Facebook, you can find me on that. I'm on YouTube. You can find me on Notefellow TV. We do podcasts, try to do it every month. Sometimes the scheduling gets a little off, but I've got several videos out there, educational videos. Also, you can visit my website at notefellow.com. There's a lot of blog posts and links and information about note investing. And if you would like to reach out to me, I have a calendar right there. You can just schedule an appointment with me and we can have a one-on-one conversation on what you're looking to accomplish with your portfolio. Very
good. Wayne, thanks so much. Again, you are a true blessing, true friend, and we appreciate you. So with that, you're very welcome. So with that, guys, again, if you want to have more information about NoteSchool and what we do at NoteSchool, simply go to noteschool.com/TV. Again, noteschool.com/TV. And please share your comments about today's episode. Any questions that you may have, we will certainly get back with you on anything that you ask. So make sure that you do that. Stay in touch, stay plugged in, stay motivated. And, we look forward to seeing you next week, 11:05 Central Time, same place, same time. Have a great week, and we'll see you later.